it's been out for a long time. I guess Bill Cooper was the one that exposed this. Um, Quiet Weapons for Silent Wars. And what I understand is a 44-page document. Maybe if you haven't had time to look into that, that's another thing that I think everyone in the truth seeker community should be aware of, and what the whole goal of all this thing is. So we've got
Hey, how are
people
you,
here.
IPS?
Mike?
Yeah, we're live, and everyone's hearing you right now. Sorry, I guess they had the phones working yesterday, and now today the phones aren't working right now. I have to call in. So if you want to hang out for the rest of the program, you're more than welcome, buddy.
Yeah, well, I thought, I've got my own chat room here, so if anybody in the chat has any questions for you or your mission, they can just call right in or chat right there, and I'll let you know what they're asking. A couple people say
Oh,
Merry.
great.
Yeah, so we've so far we got about a dozen people. They'll be flowing in momentarily. So
Yeah.
the last thing I heard you say, you were talking about the rocket is at launch angle in your backyard, and that you've seen choppers flying over. Are these like tourists?
Who knows? But actually, it's in my front yard. It's right by my front gate, and it's on the back of the semi. It's at the 79-degree launch angle. Of course, we're building a stairway, which is now done to get in the rocket. It's permanently attached to the ramp. We've built all the supports. We've redid those from 3 months ago when we was at Amboy. So everything's been redone. The fuel tanks have been replaced on the rocket launcher. We had some guy today come by and check, or yesterday come and check all the rear tires. We had problems with the rear tires. Hopefully that is fixed now. And so yeah, it's just one thing after another. We'll start working on remounting all the cables that pull the parachute. So I guess that will start Saturday. Hopefully be done with that Sunday. So it's just a lot of work. It looks like we're going to take the rocket back to the launch site Thursday afternoon. Well, excuse me, a week from Thursday. And then I've got, like I said, I've got a court case, or a couple of them Friday morning, which is the 3rd. And then we'll be back to launch. And I will not leave the launch area till this thing hopefully leaves. So.
Well, that's something I observed when I saw the movie, and people who've watched your movie Rocket Man would know this. It's a lot of work. It's like they say rocket science, but I mean beyond the actual like formula and all that, it's actually physical labor. I mean, how many hours a week does it take you to get this thing launch ready?
Yeah, well, it just varies because the weather, really affects me. Just like the weather can affect you at the launch site, either the extreme heat I had the problem with back in the summer, or the wind, or whatever. Because as I have explained to people, the wind may not be that bad at the launch area, but if you think about 2,500 to 5,000 feet up, the wind may be completely different. So then it affects the parachutes, it affects the drop angle and whatever else. So, but it's not easy because it's not supposed to be easy, which is what they said in the movie A League of Their Own.
Right. So at the height that you go to, so you're on this next one, you're aiming to go up a full mile, right?
Yeah, that's the plan, a full mile, and of course that means coming back down. It's going to take twice as long. So start to finish now, this whole launch may take a minute and a half to 2 minutes now.
You're talking, okay, from launch to landing, almost 2 minutes. Okay, so the last one, the parachute, man, it was 2 parachutes, right? One you had to manually release?
Yeah, actually, both of them were manually released. After reviewing all the tapes, I myself activated or pulled the first parachute too soon. We thought the automatic parachute release did that. It did not. It was me. It was my mistake, my fault. And some people have asked this question. Once something like this, and you're shooting straight up in the air anyway, so all the blood is rushing towards, you're trying to rush towards your head, and because the angle you're sitting in the rocket. But once you come off thrust, your body has experienced this rush from 5 to 8 Gs, and now once it goes off thrust, your mind is telling you that the rocket is slowing down or is tipping over, which is not. It's still gaining speed. So the last time I launched, I thought the rocket was starting to tip over. In other words, it's reached the apogee, which it had not. It would have probably gone another 500 feet altitude last time. So it was my mistake, and it flipped the rocket over. So yeah, it's quite an experience and quite a ride, which you can imagine.
Right. Well, it surprised me because I didn't realize how much footage that you had from the launch itself, and the cockpit footage, which you see in Real Rocket Man, shows that yeah, you're definitely feeling the force. It's like it's definitely how many G's would you describe it? And like for comparison, what would it be like if you were in an airplane, for example? How fast would you have to go to feel something
Well,
comparable?
we figured last time it hit 350 miles an hour. This time it should do 425, and it should the G range should be between 5 to 8 Gs. And of course, once again, when this thing is launching, the steam now is leaving the rocket at the speed of sound, which is around 760 something miles an hour. So you can't even hear the rocket behind you. And then but it's losing 100 something pounds per second because the amount of water is being released. And so now you've lost the weight, but now you're gaining all the speed. So a gentleman named Jerry Irvine, which is on the team for the space launch, thinks, because he did some calculations last summer when he was there watching us prepare, thinks it may hit 10 Gs for a split second.
So you can actually hear the noise that on the ground everyone hears because you're actually going. It's I mean from within it, you're not hearing anything. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, because I'm going the opposite direction of the sound.
Interesting. Okay, great. And so let's see some of the sponsors. Who are some of the sponsors this time around? Just for people who haven't heard. I know 24/7 Cafe, where you're at. They're one of your big supporters, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, Alan, him and I are got an incredible friendship, and he's kind of became like a brother to me. And like I said, I spent today and Thanksgiving with him and his wife. Basically, HUD is still on. HUD app found in New Zealand. Juan Polo, which is the restaurant chain in Southern California, and he actually owns the town of Amboy and the land 4 miles on a town that I'm going to launch at again. And we've got G&J Automotive, who's helped me since day one, and my friend Sammy Tanner, AC Crane, and another mobile fleet service, which is my buddy Anna Fontana, which I used to have my rocket there for several months when I was building it initially. So a lot of people have stuck around. We've had some people drop off, as I've said before, because of the flat Earth. It freaked out some people. We've actually had one or two sponsors back away because the production company, because the production company is associated with a couple of programs that's kind of questionable. And I had my doubts for a while. So, we'll see what happens, see how good of a job they do with homemade astronauts. And I think it's going to be people have predicted it's going to be the top show on Discovery Network, or actually Science Channel, which is owned by Discovery.
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm eager to see the trailer. And for people who don't know, the title is Homemade Astronauts. That's the working title. Do you think that's going to be the one they stick with? Yeah,
I think so. That's what they released to the Hollywood Reporter. So, and they'd like to, it's no secret. You can Google it. They've already done the story on it. And it's been picked up by some other news agencies. But they're going to actually start really promoting the show after this launch. They've been waiting for the launch. And it's just not an easy thing to do. It seems like every time I try to do this, things change. I don't care if it is the temperature outside, how the rocket heats. I mean, it's just one thing after another, but that's the way it is.
Right, exactly. That is the way it has been. I've observed this from day one, and the trials and tribulations you go through just to make it happen. And it's a huge production, and you're doing it on a shoestring budget. And that's the other aspect. You're not part of the billionaire rocket club. Here you are, basically your own small team, truly an independent rocket program.
Yeah. Which I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but it's a path I've chosen, and it's accomplished what it's supposed to. It led to a movie, and it's led to this television program, and we have, as you know, which we cannot announce yet because you've been involved with all the conference calls. We're trying to put together, and some other people, one of the top entertainment marketing companies worldwide wants to come on board and sell this thing, the sponsorship, and sell the 3-hour live television special to this, which I can say, without a doubt, will be the most watched event in kind history.
I agree, and everything has led to this. I mean, as you've said many times, it doesn't matter what kind of evidence you provide, pro or against the ball Earth model. No one's going to believe it unless everybody sees it and pays attention to the evidence that you provide. And you've already got the attention, you've already got the press, people know who you are, and your actions are well known. So a 2.5 hour live TV broadcast, and you're going to go 3 times higher than Felix Baumgarten if everything goes right, correct?
Yeah, and once again, that project, depending on who you believe, costed between $10 and $26 million, and it was 4 years behind schedule. So, and I'm trying to, go, 3 times higher than that thing was. It's just a lot. It's just a lot to do. And that's, it's really disappointing because I really thought after the announcement at last year's Flat Earth Expo that the community would really got behind it. And once again, no major channel on Flat Earth has done a story on this or talked about this or invited me onto the program.
Yeah, that was really fishy. Very fishy to me that they seemed very uninterested when I thought they wanted the answers. And here you have a viable plan to provide those answers.
Yeah, and once again, and I've said this, I stated it last week on the show, with you, and, once people get some kind of notoriety, it's kind of tough for them to let it go because they have nothing else to fall back on. With me, I've already been in a documentary movie before. I've been on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and of course, I'd already made worldwide news a couple of times. So, and besides my NASCAR career, it's just a bizarre thing. I don't know why they would not latch on to this. But the next, what pushes me over the edge is these people want to send me these videos of these weather balloons going up 100,000 feet. Folks, it's a great accomplishment. I like watching them. The thing is, it's not going to turn the tide. It's not going to be the tipping point, which is what we need.
Yeah, you're basically talking about televising live so that no one can deny it. There's no plausible deniability. What it looks like from 60 plus miles up. And it may not be a coincidence, I can't say, but right after Elon Musk launched the car into space, the FCC said you cannot broadcast the Earth from space without a license. And they had never enforced that law before. And I'm wondering if maybe it's because of your agitations. What do you think?
God, I don't know. That's a possibility. Someone else brought that up to me. You don't know what you don't know. It's the same old story about everything in life. You just don't know what's happening behind the scenes. You don't know what else someone else has said or done or contacted. It's like we wanted to this launch coming up. We tried to do it in the Lucerne Valley, which is about the launch area is 5 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. And there's another launch area, Johnson Valley, which I think is 20 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. And both of them has been turned down.
Now, why would they even turn these down? I mean, what a great achievement to have take place in your area. And, of course, the attention it would bring. I think people would want that to happen. What about, is there any place, any place in, I don't know, around Las Vegas, any sites where you can launch it, where they might want to televise it? Just surprises me that you have to go into the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, there probably is. It's just that becomes a full-time job, and once again, someone needs to be staying on that full-time to look into those areas. I actually contacted I think it's called the Puente Indian Tribe, which is 10 miles out of Vegas. They have enough room. They never returned a phone call or 2 emails. So you just don't know what these people are thinking. I don't know. I'm sure there's an area there at Lake Havasu to do it. It's just, one thing leads to another. I'm sure there's areas in Amarillo, Oklahoma, whatever to do this thing. And there certainly is an area in South Dakota that I know of that I have consent from the landowner to pursue that. Someone's got to pay for that. And no one stepped up to pay. You have to pay for that.
Well, wherever this takes place, this will pretty much, I believe, ensure that everyone who is literate and pays attention to the news, everyone becomes aware of your mission to go to space. This will draw so much attention to that. And I think that needs to be what everybody in the Flat Earth topic has their eyes on for all of 2020.
Yeah, they should. And also to let people know that I have personally contacted the spaceport in New Mexico for the space launch and not got any response from that. Now, why would you not get back with me? You know, I sent them the pictures, I sent them the stuff about the TV show, the movie, and no response from the spaceport in New Mexico. And also, the spaceport in El Mirage, which is probably about an hour from where I'm sitting right now, said they have no facility to do a vertical space launch or vertical rocket launch. Now, you figure that one out.
I know. It's like, what do you need? Just access to the sky. How hard is that? It just
Yeah.
sounds like I don't know. You know, I just watched something and I sent you a link. It's called Mirage Men. It's a documentary, and most of it takes place in New Mexico, and specifically kind of close to where I live, near this airport and military base, Kirtland Air Force. Anyway, it's about this guy in the 70s and 80s who was taking pictures of, I guess, classified aircraft and then publishing it as UFO sightings. And so the Air Force basically sent intelligence agents into his life to feed him stories about how he was seeing UFOs and that the UFOs were working with the American government. But the whole point of this movie, Mirage Men, is how the government hired liars to go mess with truthers in order to cover up government secrets. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it yet.
Actually, I tried to, and I got to sign into some account before I can view it, so I didn't. I kind of ran out of time on that. But no, I got the link, but I can't log into it to even view the thing. So, you know, I ran across another term last night someone used for something similar to that, and it's called astroturf. And basically, it's sending people in to disturb grassroots efforts in the truther movement, and it's called astroturf. I'd never heard that before. Have you heard that?
Yes, yes. Astroturfing is what you call it when they bus in activists to pretend to be the enemy or to pretend to be on your side. But yeah, like rent-a-mobs, and they can be used for anything. And so the video I sent you, Mirage Men, is basically they're disclosing that the Air Force had sanctioned COINTELPRO, which was basically designed to discredit people who saw anything they shouldn't have seen. I mean, the thing about it that surprised me is most of the popular UFO conspiracy theories were created by the Air Force as stories to distract people.
Yes, it's kind of crazy. I want to talk to you about one subject. There's something I need to bring up real quickly because I've commented on several videos that's aired this, and that is there is a video out there of a rocket that was launched several years ago, I think 2014, that went up 73 miles, and it stops. And it's been listed, people think it hit the firmament. I'm telling you right now, folks, it did not hit the firmament. So the next man or woman that posts that, I'm just going to go off on them, okay? It did not hit the firmament. I know the guy that launched that rocket, that owned it. I know the guy that built the propulsion system. That gentleman that built a propulsion system lives in Phoenix. The guy that owns the rocket lives in Minnesota. I'm not going to name their names. I know them personally.
Okay, I'm so glad you did this, Mike. I brought this up last week. I brought it up when I was talking to John LeBon, in fact, because David Weiss right now tells people that there's a rocket you can see on YouTube that hits the dome, and he's talking about that very rocket. And I'm telling people, no, these rockets have some type of device that pops the parachute or something, right?
Yes, 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 yeah, and that's the noise you're hearing right there. And believe me, David Weiss needs probably not to be reporting anything on rockets. I've probably forgotten more about rockets that guy will ever know if he starts now researching for the rest of his life. So, and you and I have talked before, this guy is probably a plant also. You know, I call him David Weasel. I just had it with this guy. To me,
Well, look,
he's non-existent.
Well, exactly. He's the guy, though, who early on basically begged the flat earth community to ignore you and to tell the mainstream media to ignore you. And I was like, why is he trying to gatekeep one of the best things that we've done as a community here? And so that's when I realized the guy's probably, and it's just my theory, but I think he's probably CIA, and that he's here to do what the Mirage Men do in that documentary, which is you control a truth movement by taking
Yeah.
anybody who gains any celebrity and burying them, hiding them. And you are gaining celebrity, as you have already done. I mean, you've been everywhere. You know, I'm just waiting for you to be on Jimmy Kimmel again.
Uh, yeah, it's in fact that was kind of strange. After my last launch, that I did not appear on any late night talk shows. I mean, that was, and we even contacted, or other people did on my behalf, Fallon and of course Jimmy Kimmel Live, because I was on that show. I was one of his first guests when that show opened up or started on ABC. And I had a great experience with that show. He was very nice to people, although I think over the years he has become a pawn. He's a tool for whatever they want to push. You know, I think Jimmy Kimmel's became that. So, and I think they forced him into it. Maybe, who knows? Maybe he was initially. So it's hard to say. Although my experience with the guy was very positive the night I was on the show, and I was treated very, very well, and so was everybody else on the show.
Right. You know, it seems like a lot of the people in the media, especially the ones who are very popular, are just they're bound by so much political correctness. But in person, they're probably just just like you or I. I mean, it's just the position that they're in. So, what about Joe Rogan? His podcasts. Have you ever considered reaching out to him? Because I saw that he was in the movie Rocket Man for a moment there.
I actually have, and the producers of my movie Rocket Man, Mad Mike's Mission to Prove the Earth is Flat, has reached out to him also. But then again, there's no telling how many times people have reached out to that guy daily. I don't know. I don't have any numbers in front of me, nor is it really any of my business. Yeah, it's kind of amazing he hasn't. But then again, we've talked about this before. Mancow, when I was on his syndicated radio show, offered to come up to $2 million to put me into space.
Oh yeah, I hit him up. I hit him up on Twitter twice, and he ignored me. So Mancow is still out there. I think he's in Chicago. I found out. I did some digging into this guy. He actually knew Obama in Chicago years ago.
Well, I think if you're in Chicago, you're in any kind of circles, you would eventually run into that guy. And for the people that don't know this, I've had a claim, a common law case against Obama for quite some time. I own the entity Barack Hussein Obama, the capitalization, which is a bunch of capital letters put together and it doesn't really say anything, but it's an entity. I own that, and I actually contacted the White House attorneys when he was in office, never got any response, contacted Perkins Court in Seattle, actually Bellevue, Washington, which is the same law firm that hid all of his records, and the Washington, D.C. office. In fact, one of the people that used to be associated with that in Washington, D.C., I think was either investigated or actually faced fines, or maybe was even in jail. I think his last name was Bayer, Bauer. And of course, he's another bar attorney, and boy, everyone should know by now my feelings about bar attorneys.
Well, I thought his name was Barry Sotoros. I mean, there was some guy who did some digging after Sandy Hook, and he was certain that Barack Obama's real name is Barry Sotoros, that he's completely fabricated, and that the Social Security number attached to him actually traces back to a mental patient in Sandy Hook, or in Newtown, Connecticut.
In Connecticut, yeah, I've heard that, but of course, Barry Sotoros, he was using that when he was going to college. Now, supposedly, Wayne Root, who lives in Las Vegas, who was a truther somewhat, and was a vice president candidate for the Libertarian candidacy for president, I forget what year that was, went to Columbia University, and he states on record that he never saw Barry Sotoros. He was not there at graduation and never has been back to any graduating ceremonies or to the alumni. So, I wasn't there. I'm just telling you what Wayne Allen Root has said several times. My opinion, and other people that's looked into this, is Barry Sotoros and I'm telling you right now, Barack Obama, the senior, is not his real dad. I think the real dad is some guy named Frank Marshall. He looks more like that guy.
Oh, Frank Marshall Davis, the communist.
That's it. The communist. That's Barack Obama's real dad, if there ever was one. far as I know, that guy was hatched from an egg. Who knows? But yeah, I go back to Mancow in Chicago, which got me off from Barack Obama. Anybody that runs those circles would eventually meet him because he was just a community activist. That's all he was. And he actually lost one election before he got elected into his position into the Senate. And I think he was a senator for like 113 or 133 days before it was announced he would run for president. And which I think was just a trial. I think that was a test run. And it got so much publicity that they finally, whoever his backer was, some people think George Soros, said, you know what, let's give this a shot. This guy may win. I think it was just a trial balloon that he sent up and got such publicity. But, everything about that guy is fabricated. And honestly, I think those kids, as some other people believe, are adopted down in Morocco.
I've heard that too, that they were basically renting the kids. And, funnily enough, there's actually a biography about Obama. And somebody asked him about the girlfriends that he talks about that he had in college. And he had to admit, he said, well, these were just composites of people that I knew. These weren't real girls. So he had, quote, composite girlfriends added into his biography.
Well, some guy came up with the story, which, I don't know if it's a story or not, says, supposedly Obama liked white guys and used to belong to this gay bathhouse in Chicago, I think called Man's Country. And supposedly, one of Obama had two handlers. One of them was Alex Axelrod, David Axelrod, which is a Zionist, and then, of course, the guy that was wound up becoming mayor of Chicago that left the Obama agency, Rahm Emanuel. There's another joke, okay? There's another communist. There's another criminal, and I can't believe it's voted in for mayor of Chicago. And I don't know if he's even still there, but yeah, that was his two handlers. But anyway, that's how that ties into the Mancow story. But I think Mancow was told not to support my effort.
That could very well be it. But I also find it interesting that Mancow is very, very close to Alex Jones and Genesis, and that might also be who's trying to gatekeep this, because I consider what all these guys are doing ultimately is trying to gatekeep any organic movement that challenges the dominant paradigm. And here, out of nowhere, comes the flat earth, and they had it contained, I think, and then you show up. So what are they going to do?
Yeah, they had their container until I showed up. I was the wild card that they never expected, and what do you do? So yeah, the Genesis communication thing, they're I guess they're the boss of Alex Jones. And I think that whole thing with it, plus the Truth Frequency Radio, that's another problem. Them never giving me any publicity or covering me. I even called in once to a show, and once they discovered, I think it lasted for about 30 seconds the interview, and then they got me off the air real quickly. So it's like everything else, man. I follow people's actions and not their words, because that's their true intentions. So. And this is another scary thing up here where I live in the high desert. I've been on the front page of the local newspaper 5 times, and but the thing is, they no longer contact me. The TV33, which has done 3 videos about me and came to my house, does not contact me anymore. And the local radio stations up here, El Dorado Broadcasting, has never done a story on me or even called me, not one time.
You know what? I think the thing is, and this has been my experience ever since we started doing the billboard thing, is that they will ignore you until you become unignorable, because then when you're unignorable, somebody else is going to cash in on on basically telling your story. So instead of letting the alternative news cover this, it'll go mainstream after your next launch, just like it did every other time.
Yeah, but it's going to a point where they can't ignore me, because I'm going to announce publicly at the first year I'm running for sheriff of San Bernardino County.
Sheriff of San Bernardino County. Hey, that would go very well. What would your platform be?
To put all the bar attorneys in jail. And to investigate every city council in San Bernardino County for fraud. Because everyone I'm stealing money. Or fraudulent contract. That's what I would do. And we would set up an agent in every city or every town in San Bernardino County and investigate just nothing but city councils and the Chamber of Commerce's.
See, I remember you discussed before running for office and what you would advance, and one thing you suggested that you would do is make it safe for people in California to be whistleblowers, hoping to get some of these crisis actors to spill the beans. Do you think you could do that?
Yeah, yeah, very much so. I would actually bring in my own district attorney, who would be a common law lawyer. An attorney cannot be common law. A lawyer can be. And that's what I would do, bring him in. And just bring back common law grand juries, which takes 25 people in a grand jury. Did you know if you submit something to the grand jury, which I have done before, and I will again Friday, they will not tell you the result of that? I've been to the office twice in San Bernardino, in the building, handing my paperwork to people at a window that you got to knock on with no window. And they open up the door. They come outside. You can't walk inside. They will not give you the result of a grand jury investigation.
Any idea why?
Who knows? I mean, they don't want to answer to anybody. They don't want to answer to nobody, and they think they're untouchable. That is another problem with these officials. They think that, you take them to court, they don't show up, you get a lawyer, and I'm going to tell you, this is how stupid something has got. And for people that live in California listening to this, I own the term people. I own the term people in the state of California. So that means no one in this state can be charged with a traffic ticket and or criminal charge using my private property. Okay, I own it. I've sent it to several sheriff's departments and courts, the court clerks, and I even dropped it off, hand-delivered to the supervisor of the criminal court in San Bernardino about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so for people who may not know, what was the story behind your armored limousine, and then how are you fighting to get that back?
Okay, the limousine I had, which you see in the movie, it was one of a kind. I don't know how many hours I had in that thing. I had my own plate in it. It said UCC 1-308, which under the Universal Commercial Code, that means without prejudice, reservation of all my rights, I will not be made to perform under any contracts unless they are full disclosure. No contracts with any government agency is full disclosure. I don't care if it's driver's license, Social Security, a permit, a bank loan, none of it's full disclosure. So it makes it all null and void. And once fraud is brought into anything, it starts with fraud, it continues with fraud. In other words, you just can't have a document where one part's fraudulent and the rest of it's okay. That does not work in the real court of law. So now, you sue these people. I sued the head of the California Highway Patrol, 2 officers, a supervisor, and then we should get it to a point where I might get a default judgment. Then the DOJ steps in. So now I sue the DOJ. They don't even show up for court. So now I'm going to file a default judgment on them. I guess that would be Friday. I tried the other day, and I left something off the paperwork. And they're in Los Angeles. I called the Los Angeles County Sheriff and the city police department. These guys are stepping in on cases. They're using they are counterfeit and fraudulent documents, and they're using my private property. Of course, they don't ever do anything. Nothing.
Right. Well, so you alluded to the movie. In the movie, you actually call and you ask, what's the status of my limousine? And the lady said that they demolished it. What was the deal?
This thing had a new motor in that was 2 days old. Okay? 2 days old. Now, the thing is with this, these towing companies have no right to do what they're doing. But they think they do, which when someone thinks they have perceived authority, it makes them dangerous. It makes them really dangerous. And then they think do what they want to do. And also, January 3rd, the same day I have Mark Sargent in court again, is the guy named Michael G. Cronje, who owns that towing company. I filed a default judgment on him. I'm going after his family trust.
Right. Well, it looks to me like that was a clear case. I don't know what you would call it, but it was a seizure of your property over what? Your plate that said, and what was it again on your license plate?
Universal Commercial Code 1-308. And that is the remedy for all unlawful government actions against you. And it has common law built into the UCC. Although it is a code, does have common law built into it. And anything that is, and I'll tell you what, there's something called Madison versus Marbury, I believe is what it is. It's an old decision. But anything that's repugnant to the Constitution, state or federal, is null and void. It's just null and void. You just void it, face value. You just call it it's void. You don't have to even recognize it.
What are your thoughts on the personal income tax and progressive income tax? Do you think that the more you make, the more the government should take, or you think there should be no taking at all?
On personal income tax, none, because you do not owe income. You do not owe any taxes on income. Now, there's several ways to define income, but you've got to realize several things. One thing, you're getting paid with a fiat currency. It is a debt-based currency that has no intrinsic value. Okay? In fact, and let me tell you a funny story because somebody used this in court once. You could rob a bank. Okay? Now, if you do not pull a gun, in other words, it's not armed robbery, you haven't kidnapped anybody, and you represent yourself in court. Okay? You cannot have a bar attorney because they will accept the charges for you. Folks, do not ever hire any of these criminals because they will accept a criminal charge for you. They will never tell you. They will never tell you that. And they never challenge jurisdiction. And bar means British Accredited Registry. They're a foreign agent. I fight them all the time in court. You know, I tell them their language is pig Latin. In fact, Paul McCartney's lawyer got back with me the other day wanting to squash my summons to him and Paul McCartney. And of course, he used my property. And I emailed this guy back, said, dude, you've got one day to eliminate this. I'm coming after you. That's kind of my hobby, going after bar attorneys. So, because they have no standing in a court of law.
Now, so that particular limousine, though, you can't really get that one back. What would you require as far as damages to replace it? What would something like that actually cost, considering new motor and how much time you put into it?
Well, my initial lawsuit against everybody was a $150 a day fine against them. That was 3 years ago. Now they're in contempt of court. And now they submitted counterfeit documents inside of a common law court, which you can't do. So, these guys are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right. Well,
but
so you haven't let it go. You have a paper trail showing the process that you've been going through over this entire couple of years now.
Yeah, 3 years. And in fact, the California Highway Patrolman wrote a ticket after I left. Now, I want people to understand. You never use the word understand in court. Always say comprehend. When I'm in court, I don't understand nothing. Because it means stand under. So you say, I comprehend. So basically, when these cops or Highway Patrol write a ticket, they have got to use the capitalization, which is not a name. It's just a bunch of letters put together that looks like your name, that looks like English, but it's not. Because that's what's on your driver's license. That's what they have to pull into these courts and tax, IRS and state taxes. Now, he wrote a ticket in my upper and lower case, which is fine, but they can't actually write a ticket that way. It's like I tell these lawyers, if you want to counter my lawsuit, then use the name I was born with, upper and lower case, Michael J. Hughes. That's all you got to do. And none of them can do it because they have no standing then in any court. Because now you're talking to a man instead of a entity. And if people think that what I'm doing is not right, well, you might want to go to the government first, because right now they're trading you right now at capitalization of. It's not a name; it's just an entity. They're trading it right now, and they have been since your baby was born. So if you think there's fraud there, or the intent to extort, you might want to go to the government first.
Right. I mean, look, I don't think it's all that far-fetched, considering that we're talking about the same government that used to legally enslave people. I mean, what are we really? And also, I have something else I was looking at. There was this guy right after Sandy Hook who tried to sue the media for terrorizing people with a fabricated event, and I don't know what happened with that. But what do you think about the prospects of some type of class action against, like NASA, for example, for taking our tax dollars and then faking stuff in outer space? I mean, let's say you go up. Let's say you go up 60 miles. I think you have a Skype call.
Yeah, we lost the connection for a second. Okay, I think we're going again.
Okay, well, we're still good on this end. So,
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay, so you go
Let's
up and you debunk the globe.
Yeah.
You land. Somebody's going to have to sue the space agencies, right? I think the private companies might be, I don't know, okay with this, but
It's possible. For people that don't know this, I have sued in common law the two top executives of NASA. I had them served just because, the money in it. I mean, I can only be involved with so many things at one time. The court, I think, is extended to February. I may have them served after my launch. I have someone in Washington, D.C. that can serve them. They specialize in serving people like that. I just found these people a couple of weeks ago.
very interesting. I mean, I think it's definitely criminal. I just find it, this part that I find troublesome though is that it's also part of the military. So can they really be responsible for the fact that people happen to take their propaganda as reality?
I just don't know. I just don't know.
Well, I think it's safe to say that, the people who are very certain that the Earth is flat are the ones who are 100% certain there's a dome. Those of us who are honest have to say we don't know and we won't until someone goes high enough or goes deep south far enough. So, to me it looks like in 2020 you're pretty much the next one that's going to give us any kind of a clue.
Yeah, you would think so. It should be the biggest news in the flat Earth. But what do you do? It's a mystery to me. It really is. It's a mystery. It's a mystery.
All right, Mike. Well, thanks for having me on. And I think I heard you say at the beginning that we should keep our eye out for the first, or rather the weekend after Sunday as a possible launch date.
Yeah, it's scheduled right now, January 5th. So that's what we're looking for. It's just there's still got to be a lot of work between now and then. So I don't know. It looks like we lost our connection again with Rick, who's running the board for the network. But yeah, we got people. I got people calling. I don't know how to answer this thing.
Yeah, I think what we'll have to do is.
Yeah, I am. So yeah, I appreciate you giving a call in. And we'll talk again next week. Okay?
Yeah, we'll talk next week. I'll hit you up afterwards.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to just let it play out the rest of the hour here on ferlive.com. They tried to take calls tonight, but they weren't able to get it to work with the Skype. I think they will by next week. Okay, and here we go. This is Mad Mike on...
But practical proofs no one can deny. Of facts, based on reason, professors seem shy. But why?
Oh, never
Tell
mind.
us why.
Looks like it was just ended. And that was, I think we're listening to
How aeronauts see at high elevations, as high as can
Dubay
be,
Step.
a wide concave surface, which proves, sir, to me, that the Earth is not like a ball. And tell us why scientists think it's assumption for anyone to have the audacity, bumption, with mere common sense or ordinary gumption, to question their science at all.
Okay, so let's go ahead and continue here. For those of you who just got here, I was just patching in to Flat Earth Radio. Mike was going to take calls tonight, but they didn't have everything ready this time, so I went ahead and just called in and got to catch up on a few things. It does look like they're looking at a January 5th launch here. It's been organized by this TV show, so we'll know when he heads out to the launch site, and I will be streaming it as best I can. Not sure if I'm going to have somebody there or what. Tim Truth says encore on the Eric Dubay. Here we go. I think they're still playing it. No, it's over. All right, well, that's
Flat, but it's found, in theory, curved. But is nature bound to bend to the scientist's laws? And why points the compass, if you can divine, both northward?
It's better than Tiger Dan.
At the same time, if the center's not north of a plane all in line, pray tell me the why and wherefore. Why? Tell us why. How is it, Sir Science, exact science so stated, The sun's distance in miles has been differently rated, from 3 or 4 millions to 100 dilated, and even from less to much more. Because this one distance, so very elastic, is reckoned the measuring rod, how bombastic, to measure star distances vast and fantastic. Then why is it altered? Wherefore?
Okay,
Guess why.
phones are on.
Tell us why.
Tim True said, "I've never heard this poem before."
As well as the modern.
It's actually pretty good.
Say what the dip is, and even the plainest explain where the ship is, and bring it back up with a glass. Pray, how do folks live at the Antipodes station, all hanging?
Oh
heads
no!
down?
Oh hell no! Oh hell no! No, nope. He just said something about the antipodes. Sorry, Eric Dubay. I was just doing some research into the so-called antipodes. Turns out there's no such thing. It's antipodes.
Antipodes.
And that's according to dictionary.com, so there are no antipodes.
Antipodes.
He's got a good thesaurus, but he's got to check the enunciation. Not that I'm nitpicking on Eric's rapping.
Why? Eclipse calculations on tables were wrought long before the Copernican theory was taught. And so this one fact melts their boastings to naught and brings their position to view. Therefore, why? Tell us why. Why?
All right.
A rule I will give for eclipse calculations, comprehensive and clear from all lines
Infinite
and all
Plane
stations.
Radio. Open phones. Thanks for calling.
Hey, IPS, how's it going? Merry Christmas.
Hey, Merry Christmas. Just chilling here listening to Eric Dubay. Is this A Night Before Christmas that we're hearing? No.
What was your question? Is it?
It sounded like it was
Nightmare?
a night before Christmas.
Yeah, it was strange sounding. But so it sounds like Mad Mike has his own radio show now. Is that what I'm gathering here?
Yeah,
Called WTF.
Yeah, WTF. It's a weekly show he's doing, and basically he has to do his own. He's doing his own commentary as he leads up to this space jump, and so he has a steam power jump he's going to do next week as soon as the Science Channel gets their cameras in position.
That's awesome. Is that the big one with the? I always forget the name of it. Not Sataloon.
Raccoon.
Were they? Raccoon, yeah. Is it that one, or is he still leading up to that?
No, that one is being led up to. This is the culmination of the first season, where it ends with the steam power jump, 1 mile up. This one's going to be followed by the space jump. They're using this first one really to bring in the money it's going to take to make the second one happen.
Gotcha. Well, I've been loving watching your shows. I've been catching up on the replays. Seems like I never can catch it live. But I was watching one, I think you might have done it earlier today or yesterday, where you were talking about astrobiologists.
Oh, yeah.
Pushing government propaganda. And I was just like, what do you do with that degree other than work for the government propaganda machine? I mean,
yeah, astrobiology. It's like, oh yeah, I study life forms in outer space. I mean, to me, that's like I was saying, like being a sociologist of Middle Earth, and you talk about the temperament of orcs.
Exactly. Like, how do you make a living with that? I mean, people give artists a hard time, but there's actually a market for art. Like, people love art. What is it astrobiologist going to do for people? I mean, it's ridiculous.
I know. It's to me, it's just more safe space, mind control programming where they keep people in their little bubbles with a lot of pretty pictures and artwork. And yeah, to me, it's just religious indoctrination. And I found something today. It was a collection of scientists talking about how science and the Kabbalah are now like reaching the same conclusions. I mean, it's pretty much in the open now. Like I've been saying, I had this theory that the solar system model is like the tree of life, just kind of repackaged. And I found a number of scientists actually kind of agreeing with this idea that science has now discovered the truth of religion, which of course I think is actually backwards. What they've done is they've used the language of science to give people a new religion.
Yeah, it's incredibly interesting, and you break it down really well. The what was that book you wrote about, like the ancient religion? I'm butchering it.
Oh yeah, the secret
I need
religion of
actually.
the elite. And I've been looking
Yeah,
at patterns. So like on the solstice 2 years ago, there was a UFO on the West Coast, and later it was admitted it was a SpaceX rocket. He just didn't tell anybody. Well, then a year later on the solstice, same thing. It looked the exact same. They said it was a missile test. But again, it was reported as a UFO. And it just so happens this year there was a massive UFO spotted above Las Vegas. And I predicted this one. I said, I'm noticing that every solstice there's some big object in the sky. And I think this is part of the astrotheological story about the star, the star that, basically comes down, and the Star of Bethlehem or whatever.
yeah, it's definitely fascinating, especially the Osiris myth gets a lot of play, and I learned the Lion King is pretty much a retelling of it, as are many other films and books, including you brought up Star Wars, and
Look,
it's really interesting.
we
Go
just
ahead.
had a new Star Wars movie come out, Skywalker,
Oh
right?
man,
Skywalker,
I
right?
can't bring myself to watch it. Have you seen it yet?
I can't. I can't. To me, they just turned it into a cartoon for the most part. But
I never really liked it, any of the movies. Wasn't really a fanboy. But go ahead. What were you going to say about it?
well, Rise of the Skywalker, the timing of it, the solstice. And so last night I was looking at a book I have called The Witch's Bible, and it tracks along with all the holidays that people celebrate and some of the ones they don't anymore, and shows you how it's just telling a story about what's going on above. So I was reading about what it said for the winter solstice, and so this is the time when the old sun god dies and that the new sun god takes over. So the idea of like Luke and his father and that little drama, it's kind of a retelling of this whole story. And so the older version of Santa is the Reaper aspect, but it's all tied into the solstices and the equinoxes. And so for there to be a movie where it's about this battle between light and dark, and instead of good and evil, it's really just about the side of the year where the sun is waning and the side of the year where the sun is waxing, just like the moon does, these cycles. Anyway, it's pretty evident to me they time these releases so that even if you're not going to Catholic Church to get your Mass from the Pope and your Mystery Babylon, you're going to get it when you go to the movie theaters, the big dark cubes that you go inside of.
Wow. Yeah, great points. And they do love to tailor their propaganda and get everyone believing it one way or the other. Yeah, but I just want to kind of take a step back and point out like the censorship that you've been going through. Looks like you're picking up some steam though on D Live, which is good to see. But I run into people in YouTube, gonna use something else, but I'll just call it YouTube, where they don't even know where you are anymore. They're like, Tim, what happened to IPS? And I have to tell them, and it's just so sad how they're able to get away with this. Disconnecting people with the creators that they want to hear from.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
people don't even hear about it. It's ridiculous. And so that's why it's important for people to get on the Patreon so that they can follow you around. But it seems like D Live's been pretty solid. And it seems like the audience over there is even picking up thanks to all the high-profile bannings that are going on.
Yes,
Looks like you even had some new Fepe stickers going on, so it's a thriving ecosystem, it looks like.
Well, I'm hoping for more bannings. You know what I mean? Like, I know it sounds bad. I'm sorry, is my sound off?
I hear you here.
Okay, there we go. It's on again. Sorry. No, I'm hoping for more bannings, like high profile, because it creates a backlash where people migrate. And I think that D Live is a very smooth transition. So I'm totally fine with YouTube burning. In fact, I mean, I probably shouldn't say this, but like I wouldn't be mad if people made a concerted effort just to shut the whole thing down by any means necessary. Like, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I say that shadow banning is extremely cowardice or cowardly or whatever the word is, because they don't want people to actually, feel the full pain. It's all about like making it incremental, and so people don't even notice it. And everyone just years have passed, and we've just been getting incrementally watered down and filled up with the establishment. And people don't even know. They're just like, yeah, but YouTube kind of sucks now. It's just boring.
Well, you know what?
And it's,
If you look at the psychology of gaslighting, and I think the government uses gaslighting against people, the worst thing that they will do, like a psychologically abusive person, when they're trying to break your spirit, is they will give you the silent treatment. And many report that being given the silent treatment by a community is almost worse than suicide. It's like being ostracized or exiled. And so when they give you this kind of soft censorship where they just kind of mute you and they don't tell you, that's basically saying you don't exist. And that's just high level psychological invalidation. Like you really can't.
wow.
It's like I'm going to
Yeah,
erase
that's
you.
deep. Because we know that they have like these big budget research projects where they study this stuff. I mean, if you own CNN and you're an evil person, of course you're going to try to get into psychology and see why people make decisions and behave the way they do. And if they, like, for all we know, they designed all these controlled platforms around what you just mentioned, where a community turning their back on you and not giving you any recognition is an extremely powerful motivator. And conversely, if they can give you the dopamine hits of people liking your posts when you go along with the program, those two things can really control people and make them act in a desired fashion.
Oh yeah,
But
just like religions have always done. And I think the same priesthoods that have managed the religions are the ones who manage basically the populations in this new decentralized media in the same way, where now you want to make it painful for them to leave your platform, but when they're in their platform, you have to conform. They have to conform. So it's like if Big Brother wants you not to criticize this type of behavior, well, they just make this standard the standard on the big social media platforms. So if you don't adhere to Big Brother's rules and respect his sacred cows, they actually have real power over you psychologically.
yeah, and what we're talking about now is for people who've already kind of derived at a position in life, but there's also people who are seeking the truth and trying to find out what is reality, how should they behave, what should they think, especially children. And if you grow up in a world where everybody on YouTube that you encounter is saying the exact same thing, all data points point at the same, indicate the same worldview as being correct, then you're going to fall in line and you're going to go along and think that that's the truth. And so they can manufacture this consensus in the eyes of people still trying to seek out what to be in life. And you mentioned gaslighting earlier. Is that just simply like, manufacturing a consensus in the eyes of somebody? Or, because it seems like a complicated term, and I certainly don't understand it.
Oh yeah, really simply, gaslighting is when somebody sees the truth and is saying the truth that they accurately perceive, but the authority says, no, that's not how it is. And so the person who is hearing this information is left in this kind of awkward position of having to go along with it even though they don't believe it necessarily, or even though they know it's not true. And the idea is that anytime the person differs from the consensus, they're told they're wrong, even if the consensus is wrong. And over time, they cease to resist the flow of groupthink or how the group is thinking. So, for example, when it comes to, the term gaslighting comes from a movie where this guy was messing with his wife's mind by lowering the lights. And she would say, "Is it darker in here?" And he would say, "No, it must be your eyes." And he was constantly contradicting her perceptions. And so this idea of contradicting someone's perceptions intentionally and then lying to them about it, apparently it does cause people to become apathetic after a while because their perceptions are constantly invalidated.
Wow. Yeah. Great summary there. And what's really scary is there are these psychological concepts that we understand, some of us more than others. It seems like you have a good understanding of some of these tactics. But then if there's all the privatized ones that the public doesn't know about, at least not everybody. Maybe people get glimpses of, the human psyche and how people make decisions. But now what they can do, like I'm a programmer and I know like the power of to some extent, the power of a given computer. And it's immense. It's like almost more than anybody can harness. But Google has millions of servers. And so they're either wasting all of the computational resources, or they're putting them to use to get them value. And so theoretically, and I'm pretty sure they're doing this to some extent, and it's only going to get worse, they can find patterns in people that don't even make sense, that can't even be explained like you just did with the gaslight effect. Humans can hardly even understand what the algorithm is doing to shape the behavior because it's all evidence and data driven. And I don't know, I'm really scared by the prospect of how they can condition and program people via all their algorithms. Some of the algorithms are tailored to the creators. We discussed some of those, where they either remove the incentives to create anti-establishment content or content that's inconvenient to the establishment, or they can uplift people by giving them more rewards, giving them more incentives if they create establishment-friendly content. Then there's the shadow banning, shadow promotion, and then there's the algorithm for the people, where people don't even see the videos that are edgy and not making the creator that made it any money. And then there's they're just getting, force-fed all this content based on an algorithm, which is crunching numbers all the time across millions of servers to find out which series of video recommendations is most effective at getting people to believe X, Y, and Z. So it's really a terrifying situation. I don't know if I made any sense there.
They're micro-targeting the propaganda. I just watched a documentary called Miragemen, and it was about how a UFO witness in the city where I live, he was watching these UFOs taking off from an Air Force base, and he pretty much started this internet site about it and published about it. Anyway, he went over to talk to the Air Force about it, and they said to him in a private meeting, yeah, we think that you might be onto something. And they kind of laughed it off. Anyway, right after, they had the NSA across the street from him, sending signals to his private radio that he thought was coming from aliens. And they basically hired people in the Air Force to make up bullshit stories about UFO landings and technology to give to this guy, so that he would publish on the web and everywhere else all these extravagant stories about flying saucers and underground bases. And this was all to hide, I think, the stealth technology. So it's kind of interesting how so many of the people out there who believe in these UFOs and go to these conferences and talk about the Dulce underground base and all this stuff, well, they're actually just basing their beliefs off of stuff that was written by the Air Force. And my point is, they actually went through all this effort for one guy, for one publisher of content. They actually had the NSA run a whole operation on him, including a massive disinformation campaign. And it was intended to drive him crazy, and it did. He wound up in a mental institution.
Wow. And yeah, I think it's predictable how people come across their information and their worldview, and they control all the major flow, the flowing of information, be it on, people turn on the TV or search Google or click around on YouTube or search YouTube. But then there's a couple of threats to their paradigm that they try to snuff out manually, I guess. And yeah, it's pretty terrifying, the immense power that we're up against here, and all the resources and agents and mercenaries and everything that they have at their disposal. It's it's quite a daunting uphill battle.
The people who are running the UFO conferences are now admitting one of the guys I was watching this documentary, Miragemen, one of the guys in this documentary describes how, he was basically taking advantage of gullible people, and that so he would have his little story, but then people would come with their own stories. So people would be lying, and he knew it because he was lying. So you got this government liar saying, I know about this secret alien technology, and people would come out of the woodworks and meet him at his conferences, shake his hand and say, I'm a witness too. And so this guy's having a blast, I think, just manipulating these people. But they pointed at the cameras in the hotels, and he said, the reason they have these conferences is so they can do intel on all of the dissidents, all the people who might know too much about secret tech, so that they can personally go after them and discredit them.
Yeah, it's we have to work that much harder. We can't take it easy. I mean, it's almost game over. I feel like I'm looking up at a scoreboard at a football game and we're losing like by 10,000 points or something.
Well, hey,
But
you made a good point with this library thing, and I've already done it. So I've automated my videos, so now they go from wherever to BitChute and library. So I'm not really being deleted anymore. So to me, it's just a matter of getting the numbers back up, and I think this time it'll stick.
good to hear. Yeah, I'm liking library. BitChute is kind of hokey. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's
Yep.
kind of buggy. But hey, I can't. Beggars can't be choosers, right? They're doing it for free. So yeah, we definitely have to be smart, put our collective skills together, and try to work our way out of this mess. But
Yeah. Hey, one more
there's a
thing.
lot of work to do. Yeah.
You got to see this Mirageman. I'm looking at it now, and when I saw this thing, it just reminded me of the truth movement right now, and like every aspect of it. Like pretty much, there are so many things out there that they put to mislead people away from getting to the basic truths. But I think everyone needs to watch it. I'll have to send you a link because there were some things in there that just let me know that our government sanctions COINTELPRO. So I don't really think that we're even offending that many people. I think that there are paid agents who are there to flag certain speech on the basis that it's offensive, but I'm not willing to believe that I offended one person after all these channels they've shut down for being hate speech.
Yeah, and I'd be interested. I want to ask you a question about that, but one comment first. Sometimes it's hard to tell when you see stupidity in these chat rooms whether they're agents or just like people that have been tricked by agents. But my question to you is, what kind of techniques do you think that they're doing that, or do you suspect they might be doing based on the connections you saw with that movie you're recommending?
Okay, one thing they want to do is it's ad hominem. That's basically it. The agents that they hire, from what this movie said, or this documentary explained, is they're hiring people who aren't that intelligent or who are drug addicts, basically people who aren't thinking too deep, because they don't want it to get into an intellectual debate that might win you some support. They just want people who can, throw stuff at you and whatever sticks. And it tends to work. When it comes to groupthink, if they can smear you with enough, they can discredit your message. And so that's what they're doing primarily. And it's because they're operating on trying to get people emotionally triggered by you. That's why I think a lot of agents will just randomly throw out the Hitler salute or something just in the mix because symbolically, it resonates with certain people and it scares them off.
Yeah, and another one I think that it is really important to them is knocking anybody who tries to pay for their research, pay for their ability to do it full time or to even carve out time from their schedule. And whenever anybody, asks, for donations or tries to make a business that kind of helps the research get funding and deliver information and value to people, people will always come along, call them shills, call them e-beggars. It just seems like that's a common tactic. And I'm not saying everybody that does that is an agent, but it seems like it's a common, it's like people, they've been programmed to have that reaction so that the content creator is less inclined to do it in the future. And other people who are watching, I mean, it really hurts the truth movement. And I've heard you make the great case before. It's like there's a cost of doing business and a cost of, the time cost, a resource utility cost, like electricity and mainly time. And I would just like to see people support content creators.
Yeah,
more.
I want to know, do they'll call you grifters. Yeah, and the thing is, the people who will call you a bad person for earning money don't have the balls to call in and give you a principled reason why. Like, I argue against minimum wage because I know it punishes small business and it actually lowers wages, right? So, like, economically speaking, it's just a fact of life that whatever you subsidize, you get more of. Whatever you tax, you get less of. And so when I'm doing these channels, like I was initially demonetized by angry trolls who said that truth should be free. And I'm like, whatever the hell that means, they're demonetizing me because they know that now I have to go divide my time up. And that's what it's about. So I'm saying I treat money in terms of what we're doing here as investment, capital in whatever your content creator's doing. And if you want to see more of it, why wouldn't you throw money at it? And I like the idea of earning money or raising money just to make the trolls mad. When this channel started financing billboards, the trolls were apoplectic. They couldn't contain themselves. I'm pretty sure a few of them committed suicide because they couldn't grasp that we wanted things to happen as a collective and we could do it. And so they figured it's some type of a major crime and a scam. Where I'm like, how is it a scam if a whole bunch of people pitch in on a billboard? Is it a scam if you go out to lunch with your friends and everybody throws in 20 bucks? I don't think so. So I call those people commies in order to drive them off. And I think we have to do it. I think that the people who have this negative attitude about monetizing content need to be put in their place, like now, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, and there's one little thing I want to add. It seems like content creators have to make a difficult choice and it seems like people will only, at this point, seems like they only pay if the content is exclusive to, not always. I guess the dilemma for the creator is whether to make exclusive content, pay-per-view or membership fee, or make everything free and then have donors. And I think that the community should support the latter, because what we really need is the message to get out there, and it just doesn't seem like it makes sense for the creator to have to incentivize people. Like I support a couple people, including yourself, on Patreon, but I don't want any exclusive content. I just want the creator to be able to pay their bills and for them to be able to make more videos and for it to propagate through the system and have a benefit to the world. Yet a lot of people only will support somebody if there's like a direct incentive. But I think there is, even in the case I just mentioned, people are just too short-sighted to see it.
Well, the genius of the super chat system was it was much like people tip their waiters when they have a good experience. It was a great system, and people were producing a ton of content and getting paid just to basically entertain and maybe inform people. And I thought it was a great system. I thought it was democratic, it was fair, and you could earn based on merit. So if you could hold an audience for a few hours and have decent conversations or whatever, and you walked away at the end of the night with a few $100, I don't see anything wrong with that. And yet I would do stuff like this. And then there would be this certain element that would just immediately think, okay, they would say, well, obviously this guy's Illuminati, CIA, blood drinking Illuminati shill. Otherwise he wouldn't have made money. And I'm like, where do these commies come from? And most of them I noticed are in the UK. So they don't necessarily, I don't think, share my values here as an American, that merit ought to be rewarded. I think they're a little bit more entitlement minded out there. But yeah, it is a conundrum. How do you keep this thing going and at the same time finance it? And I think we need to shift the culture towards funding content creators so that we can turn public attention away from the mass media. Because what gives them money is you giving them your time and ad revenue.
Precisely, well said. And I'll get off the line here in case anyone else wants to call in, but I think you're spot on. We need to support content creators. It's a big piece of the puzzle. And YouTube used to help people do it. Like you said, Super Chat, and you didn't. I'll mention the ad revenue. But then they just screwed people over. And at a certain point, we had to start looking at that 30% and just hate Google for it, because they make you jump through so many hoops, give them a bunch of free hours, and then once you hit 1,000 subscribers, you can turn it on. You've had trouble even hitting that milestone with your 70th channel, and then they wouldn't do it anymore. Now you're permanently banned. And at this point, I don't even like Super Chatting. I used to love it. It would be like a big, colorful, support bomb in the chat room, and it would make the creators happy. And when it was still novel at the beginning, and now it's just I don't know. I'd rather support people other ways, but it's tough. It's tough. And YouTube used to give people a platform where if they made great work, they were incentivized back when they were trying to get market share before they switched to full fascist establishment damage control.
You're right.
But it's sad to see so many people are brainwashed into these common traps where it's like, oh, well, information should be free. You're a scammer if you try to monetize your work. Yet they didn't. I don't know. I'll end it there.
Well,
but,
let me add this
definitely
one.
Support IPS. Yeah,
a couple things here really quick. One, let everybody know about your current project regarding this video curation site and how it works.
Yeah, and I definitely want to get you hooked up with your own instance if there's enough demand. The idea is for any content creator who wants their own website. We spin you up with an instance of this site. I've already made it. It's on groupdiscover.com. I have one instance for my community. But any content creator with a big enough following, this would allow them to have money go straight into their bank account. And what they would give back to the people is a repository of videos that they and every other member contribute to, both in finding videos and linking them on the platform, and in rating the best videos so that the gems find their way to the top. And then there's also a personalized recommendation aspect of it, where based on people that are similar to you and what videos they like and what videos they hate, if they see videos and like videos that you haven't seen yet, then it recommends it to you.
Right.
So I think this is a great way for a content creator to have something to sell off the shelf. And the great thing about software is it's all profit. And I really do think that, it's just the best idea I have at this point. It's not perfect. It won't solve all our problems, but it'll help people find channels on all the different platforms, be it LBRY, Brightian, YouTube, and BitChute. So I'm excited about it. I hope I can get some adoption. And I would love to hook people up, including yourself. If you're ever interested, let me know.
Yeah, groupdiscover.com. I'll be looking into it. Again, I think it's a good idea. I think we've already passed the big obstacle with regards to breaking away and being independent of these big channels that betrayed us. But, like you said, they went full fascist. I think to me, it's no loss. And I think the more YouTube embarrasses itself, the better. And the more people who get kicked off that platform, definitely the better. So I hope 2020 we really see a big shift. And then anybody who doesn't want to support content creators or think we're scammers because we're making money, do you call the people who record albums scammers? Do you call authors scammers or cooks scammers? Like, we're doing productive work. We're writing, whatever it is. I don't really see that there should be a stigma anymore, especially now that it can be demonstrated that we're definitely the underdogs here. And these big platforms are so threatened, they do not like the idea that the truth becomes lucrative. And so you might be able to make that, a reality for a lot of people. And that's what they don't want. So I hope it works out with Group Discover. Yeah,
I'll send you a free trial account that you can play around on it, see if you like it. And then also, these are the same people that would absolutely take an Uber, across town and just pay 50 cents if that's what the app asks them to, and not tip the driver. Like, the least they have to do, they'll do. And it's sad. It's sad. But thanks for taking my call, man. Calls in next.
All right, have a great call.
Great
night. Thanks. Appreciate it. 505-510-4226. Great call by Tim Truth. If you want to check out his site and the project he's on, groupdiscover.com. I'm going to take a more in-depth look at it before I'm able to give it a full review. Like I said, phones are open. If anyone has any comments, earlier tonight we were covering Mad Mike Hughes, and he was announcing his plans and what they're doing with the homemade astronauts and his ongoing fight against California and everyone involved in the theft of his one-of-a-kind armored limousine. Is there somebody here who believes in aliens? How many people here still believe in aliens? I know the alien abduction crowd. It's kind of fascinating. After watching Mirage Men, let me get you the wiki page. You can watch this free on YouTube. Best documentary I've seen on the topic ever. It's a 2013 documentary called Mirage Men. It's about how the U.S. government used mythology to cover up advanced technology. So they used the alien mythology, alien abduction stories, etc., as a way to cover up people who are citing military craft that's classified. And even the guys behind it, even the scammers behind this thing, as in the ones working with the Air Force to pull this off, they were surprised, I guess, to see that people were taking it so seriously that people still believe their lies today. Hey, what's up, caller? Have you been abducted by aliens?
Hello?
Hey, what's up, caller?
How you doing?
Pretty good.
You're live, obviously, right? Because I'm listening on D-Live, and, like, I don't know if you're live or anything like that, but I take it you are because you hit the phone.
Yeah, we're on D Live right now. We've been live for about 90 minutes.
Yeah, I watched the show. Like, I'm not too familiar with you because I watched you on YouTube a few times, but you were so they got rid of you so many times. Like, I couldn't keep up with you because I'm not too good with the internet. You know, and
Yeah, they
I really
said,
like what.
man, they shut my channel down 69 times in little over 18 months. Like, they definitely do not want people calling in to a live stream where we openly talk about things that they don't want us to know about and not the fake
Hmm.
conspiracies. But no, I mean, and now it's too late. They can't censor me now.
Yeah, I think they can sense you. That's the problem. You know, I don't mean to sound like, you know, well, I'm a little bit nervous caller anyways, but I have a lot to say. Nothing negative, because trust me, I like you. I like any truther. But the thing is with the internet, like even your own website, maybe I'm wrong, but having your own website, like, you know, all the people like, well, like the Holocaust, like all those people, the internet was gone. I mean, I'm sorry if I'm jabbering a little. Are you still there? But
Yeah,
hang
yeah,
up.
yeah. No, go on, keep going. That's fine. Whatever you're saying. This is. I want to hear
I'll
your
make
point of view.
I'll make sense as I go along. Like I said, I'm a little bit nervous, but like websites, like I go on people that, you know, and the website never works. Like you can't. It just doesn't do anything. Websites, like they get rid of websites daily if they don't want your voice, or because they control the whole internet. You
Yeah,
know.
that's a good point. Jim Fetzer is a guy who did a great book on Sandy Hook, and one
Oh
day,
yeah, I know.
man, and he exposed how they faked the kids using old photos, and
Yeah,
they took down his WordPress blog just like that. I read his blog, and then boom, it was deleted, and then they took him to court.
yeah. And there was a website, wasn't it? Real.video, right? Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, I started
Yeah.
to get on that one, and like 153
It's
got shut down. Is Real Video still up?
no real video. Like you put it on, you type it in, and like some like company, like cookie company, comes up with something. I'm not sure if it's a cookie company, but it's like some food in like a different country comes up a website for that real.video.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought they were doing. They were using this purge of YouTube to get people to scatter. They get all the very informed people to go to these smaller like ghettos, and then they just cut them off. Like the last caller, Tim Truth, mentioned BitChute being clunky. Well, BitChute was shut down in New Zealand because we put a documentary up exposing that shooting in March was fake.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the thing is with the internet, like I never like messaged or anything. I just went on YouTube. That's where I found everything out. But I kind of knew everything, for years now. But when Trump was running, that's when it got all the hype, And then, well, not that I ever voted in my life because I knew it was a scam. And not that he had to prove it to me, but as soon as he gets in, shit hits the fan when people thought he's for America first, and it's not for America at all.
Isn't it funny that now the ADL says that the AOK symbol is a hate symbol when that was Trump's hand symbol?
The ADL, you know what they are.
Yeah,
I don't want to get too graphic with words, but
the ADL is a hate group. They're
God.
bigoted, they're prejudiced, they hate America, they hate freedom, they're totally fascist, thought police, and really I think that they're kind of scummy because what they're doing now is they're saying, oh, you can't have that bowl cut if you're white. You can't make that hand symbol if you're white. And I'm like, well then, you guys can't wear yarmulkes. And,
Yeah.
It's like, you
Yeah.
can't, they're not
Yes.
playing fair.
Yes, say that, and you'll end up in jail.
Exactly. And I'm like, you know what? That's crazy because here we have them using the word hate, like they own it and they can apply it to people. Like a priest can't be a sinner, right? And I'm like, no, the ADL is a hate group. I don't think anybody can disagree with that.
No, I'm not very religious at all, but it's just sad because people are just, not that they're dumb, but it's that television, that programming, it gets us all in a little. And people are just too, they don't really care. Like, how many of us truthers out there when they were calling everyone a truther were like that's supposed to be insulting because I want to know the truth? That's an insult if you call me a truther?
Yeah, isn't that funny? How it used to be, if you were labeled a liar, you could sue for defamation. But now it's
Yeah.
like you could be a liar, it doesn't mean anything. You just don't want to be a truther because they reversed the language. They play hoaxes in the media, and if you call out the hoax, instead of saying, "Hey, you got a perceiver here," they call you a hoaxer.
Yeah.
Projection, 100%. So.
Mhm.
Okay, so I don't know
Yeah.
if you caught this, but I watched this documentary today called Mirage Men, and they basically admitted that the Air Force more or less made up all the stories about UFOs. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on
Yeah.
the whole UFO thing?
And see, my whole thoughts on the UFO, I always believed in it 100%. 100% I believed it all, like the UFOs, because I don't know why. Well, I know why. Because I just believed in it. Because I'm just a little nervous. I'm sorry, I'm still nervous talking to you. It's like talking to like a
Oh, it's all good.
superstar or something.
I'm just like, 'cause
But
I'm just curious because they're gonna fake a UFO invasion, and I want to know like who's gonna believe it? Like the people in your life, the people you know, yes or no, will they fall for it if the government stages a UFO invasion?
the people in my life, yeah, they're gonna fall for it because they believe everything the news says, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
They believe everything that the television tells them. They believe in it. It's like my family's over, like, and they're watching the news, and I'm in the other room just all by myself, just like, I just can't believe how fucking stupid that, and they're talking about Trump, how he's trying to do this good, and my other sister's going back and forth. Like, he should stop tweeting. It's like, oh my God, they just buy all into it.
And you know what? It's not because people are like they're dumb or anything. I mean, I voted for Trump, and the reason why is I was actually believing too much news. I thought that all the border violence was real, all the cartel violence, and I dug deeper and I found out that I was voting based on misunderstandings that they gave me through agitprop that was targeted at me through mailing lists. So my point is, the media can create a worldview just like a religion can.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Well, see, that's the problem with society. We're always going to have bickering. No one's ever going to get along. We have too many religions, and that's the problem. We don't know where we come from. You know what I mean? We all have ideas, but we don't know any of that, so that's why we're all divided. We're going to stay that way because we don't know where we came from, where we live. We have so many, and that's what I believe.
No, you're right. This is what Orwell talked about it, that the oligarchs create worldviews to keep people in different tribes mentally, so they're always fighting. And I think that's the real reason why we see all the division with religions, with politics, and even with like genders. They want to have people in tribes so that they don't think as individuals.
Oh, of course. We'll look at. That's exactly. They proved themselves with the internet when people started following. People saying opposite about news. More people will probably follow them on the YouTube because YouTube was the main platform. Everyone was on it, and when it got too popular, they just had to end it and put everything. They just have to get rid of it and just keep you on that fucking cable. You know what I mean? Because so YouTube, by doing this, they're not losing money. You know what I mean? Because they're just not losing money. You think YouTube, the Jews, would do something to lose money? They never do that.
You know what? That's a good point. When I'm like, this is just bad business, because when they kicked me off in June, I was making like 200 a week on YouTube Red ad revenue. So that was on top of Super Chat. So I was almost making 1,000 a month on YouTube, and I'm like, they just terminated my channel, and I'm thinking, are they just willing to cut away this passive revenue source just without even thinking? And the answer is, yeah, because they're obviously making up for it somewhere else.
Well, who runs the government? Who runs the world, really? Who is it? You know who it is.
Yeah, so this brings me to another thing. You said nobody knows where they came from. Have you looked into this mud flood theory?
Yeah, I looked, not too much. I looked into it a little. That guy's always talking about it from another country there.
Yeah.
With the long hair, which is...
Oh, That guy. That guy.
Yeah.
That guy. Interesting research anyway. But the idea is that there was that the elite flooded us out 200 years ago.
Yeah, see, like, why were they building, like, such huge fucking buildings back then when there was only, like, so little people in the town? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the buildings back then, they're so huge. It's like, what was the purpose of that? Like, they don't even build buildings like that now.
It looks to me like, if there's anything to this idea, that we may be more or less just a couple centuries away from some type of massive depopulation, if there's anything to it. And I don't know, the more I look into it, the more I find it very compelling. And I certainly don't trust the history books any more than I trust the mainstream news, because it's pretty much the same thing.
They're both the same thing. They're all the same. It's sad. Like, I used to watch Russian vids and PK. I don't know if I know you don't get you guys. Some of you guys argue with each other. It's just a shame because you're all on the same boat and they're so divided.
Oh, PK's cool. I've actually I talked to PK on October 1st, 2017, the day of the Harvest Festival hoax, because I was kicked off during a live stream 20 minutes into my live stream. And that day I got in touch with PK and Smoke and Mirrors, and we talked about how YouTube was going downhill, and that was day one. That's when they kicked it off.
Yeah, I used to watch Smoke and Mirrors all the time. There was so many of them that I watched. It's a shame. But see what they did to PK when he started, like, calling the hospitals and shit like that? I'm surprised he's not in jail.
Yeah, they went after him, and I'm watching myself on that. Like, I'm trying to keep it in the realm of discourse, because I think I've already crossed a couple of lines.
Yeah, but you know what? Now, I mean, how many people do you think you can see your videos now?
Well, you know, at this point, it's hard to say, because, like, last March, I had, at the end of March and April, we went from 300 to 12,000 subs, and every video, the number of hits, it was crazy, the amount of hits we were getting, and the things we were saying, just openly, I don't think were being said, or aren't being said anymore. Like,
so what I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
What other platforms are you on? Because I just see you on DLive.
Okay, right now I'm on DLive. I'm live on Twitter. It's Infinite Planar. I'm live on. I will be on Instagram soon too. Also on Twitch. Twitch.
Yeah.
And then float.app or infiniteplainradio.live.
Yeah, you go.
And then I think that's about it.
See, that's how computer. I don't even have a smartphone. Well, I call it a dumb phone, but
yeah, it is.
I still have a flip phone. So, like, I don't get involved with Twitter and shit like that.
Oh, you know what? I just for people who are still on YouTube, because you know what, they do have this certain advantage. I do have a YouTube channel, so.
Yeah, I know, but it's like you'll have it for a couple days.
I know it's a pain. What I would recommend, though, if you have a chance, go to infiniteplainsociety.com and get on the email list. That way, you pretty much don't miss anything, especially in the next few weeks, because there's some interesting things going to be happening.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I don't even know. I need, like, my niece and nephew to fucking sign me up and shit like that. It's weird because I'm just so not computer into it. Like, I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Oh no, I get it. I mean, I just recently got some people to move over to DLive because of it. Yeah, some of his stuff is a little bit of a bump, but they made it that way on purpose. They made it super, They did it on purpose because they wanted to basically guardrail people so they go back to the main platforms.
Oh, exactly, and I know exactly what they did. Like, I had to get my sister to sign me up on DLive, and the only reason I went to DLive was Lift the Veil because I used to watch him, and I still do. But it's the same. I like him, but nothing wrong with him at all. But
I like Lift the Veil. I think that he was really good at talking about the hoaxes and not saying so much to get himself kicked off. I mean, he walks that line, which is an art form.
Well, no, they got him off YouTube, but you know that. But no, he just reports on the mainstream media. Like, I already know that's a lie. Like, that doesn't pique my interest no more, because who cares what they fucking say? It's just, I want to hear that, someone trashing the opposite side. Like, he does that too. He doesn't believe it, but he's basically regenerating the news, because he's staying on the safe side. Not that he believes it.
Well, I'm at the point now, though, where I really think that we have been put into a religion just by believing the news. So I call it the world stage, and so much of it is fake. And if you're on the world stage, you believe the official news about everything. You believe in climate change, and everything the president says is more or less true. So it's like it's an echo chamber, and I'm just trying not to analyze the news assuming any of that's real.
No, that's the perfect way of looking at it, because I always said, even before Trump, I'm like, whatever the news says, think the opposite.
Oh yeah,
Whatever
absolutely.
the news says, think the opposite. It's like 9/11, like, what? I remember that day. It's like, and I was thinking, like, as the buildings fell, I'm like, how the fuck do buildings fall like that with a plane hitting it? It doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. But the thing is, the way they cover it, it's so emotional that there's no way you can intellectually analyze it. I remember when PK started, and a lot of these other people who are calling out the hoaxes, they got opposition from truthers who said it's too soon to say nobody died. What about the victims? What about the victims? That's what they always said. How can you say that? Because
Yep.
the survivors, you might make them cry.
I know that. I know that because I also I've been on YouTube for a while, and recently, like 6 months ago, I came upon what's his name. I know you don't get along with him because for some reason you guys argued. I don't know what the beef's about. He's from my area. I live in Boston. He lives in somewhere. What's his fucking name? Brian Stabley. Not that I'm promoting him or anything. I like him, but I just said that you guys and what they did to you at the Flat Earth conference. It's a shame.
Oh, he's fine. Brian and I, it's nothing personal. The thing is, we have a major disagreement philosophically, but when it comes to the analysis of the news, yeah, he was one of the first ones to say the whole thing was theater. And that's where you find big channels like, or big names like Jim Fetzer, for example. People have been talking about this for years. They don't really talk about 9/11 as anything other than some type of conspiracy. None of them are willing to say, yeah, this was a media hoax.
Well, and I believe like the planes hit, but after watching videos, I watched some videos of Timber Cruise just recently, and the video, what we saw on TV was fake, I believe.
You know what? That's another thing too. Nobody really saw it live. I mean, it was reported secondhand, but no, it was pretty much the next day. So that could have been pre-recorded footage that was then attached to a controlled demolition.
Oh, 100%. What we saw, with those planes that hit the buildings that we saw, that was the movie we were watching. I believe that was because common sense. If they say the planes were going 500 something miles an hour, they could only do that at the top speed they're at when they're high up in the sky because the atmosphere is thinner. So the planes can't go 500 miles an hour that low. That's just common sense. So right there tells you it's not true.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That right there debunks it. 500 miles an hour at that level, but they're not going to leave anything to chance. So I used to think, well, maybe they knocked down the building and then superimposed the plane footage with like a 10-second delay. But looking back, no, this movie was 33 years in production.
Oh yeah,
and they had the footage ready to roll that day.
Yeah, it's like they tried to, back in '93 when they blew up the building in the basement. Remember the FBI set it up. And that was, you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
And that was proven. That guy that videotaped the FBI and him talking about how they're going to use real bombs. So the FBI is just they're just a cleanup squad for the government. It's a shame. It's all a lie. Everything we know is a lie.
Yes, and one of the big lies of our time has been this space utopianism. And my contention on that now is that they gave us this concept, this glorious concept of Mars settlements, as a way of conditioning Americans to embrace communism. The Mars settlement, however you want to look at it, is identical to a gulag in what it does to you, the individual who's a part of it now. It's like a hive. and it's not about freedom. And so I kind of think that the whole space program is a massive deception where
It,
the
of
oligarchs
course,
just work together on it.
of course it is. The space station it's a joke. There's no such thing as a space station. There's no such thing. You watch the videos, you see all the fuck ups, and it's just common sense. Like we were talking about, like I did believe in UFOs, and I said this years ago. I'm 47 years old, and I'm like, with all this technology coming out, because I believed in all the UFO, like Roswell and all those other ones. And I'm like, when all these cameras out there, we're going to have great fucking videos of UFOs. And that's all we're still getting is videos of lights.
Yeah, that's another good point. After 2012, and there were a few articles that were published last year that talked about this, they said, where did the UFO goes? Because as soon as smartphones started disseminating
Yeah.
to the masses, you would think, well, everybody's got a camera. There were no more
Yeah.
UFOs. And
Exactly.
I called it out last year, all year. I said, where's the UFOs? Proves that these are fake. Well, this year, in 2019, there were a ton of sightings, and I think it's they were responding to it. But like you said, they're all just still dumb lights in the sky. We haven't seen anything even slightly convincing.
But you know what? I seen the strangest lights in the sky. This was like 7 years ago. And if I had it on video, you would just see lights, but they were so close. It wasn't a helicopter. I'm not delusional. And it was fucking scary. I jumped out of the window. I'm not going to explain it because it's not going to make sense. But I don't know what it was to this day. Like it just. But what the fuck was it? Like it's weak. I don't know. I'm losing you here.
Could it have been? See, here's another thing too. Earlier, I was talking about Mirage Men, where it talks about how the Air Force was using disinformation against conspiracy theorists to make them believe in UFOs and flying saucers and alien bases. But at one point, one of the agents took this conspiracy theorist to this area outside of a military base in Dulce, New Mexico, and they actually had some drones launch where he could see it. And this was at night.
Yep.
And so it looked to him like alien craft coming out of the ground and then disappearing at a really fast speed. And so he reports on it. He was even given classified photos, like satellite photos of the area. So he had a lot of credibility and he believed it 100%. And now we find
Yep.
out that was a psyop staged for his benefit.
Yeah, I was just actually watching something on DLive. It was Crowdsource the Truth. Not that I believe that guy, but he's like another Alex Jones. You know what I'm talking about?
I think I know.
Crowdsource the Truth.
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
He's another Alex Jones. He'll tell you, 95% truth, and then, or whatever you want to say the percent is. But so, and he was just talking about that, about the thing. What's the matter with her?
But you do got.
Oh, no, sorry.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway, yeah, with gatekeepers, yeah, you know it is. It's like you can take like 90% of it maybe, and I do appreciate the research of the disinformation agents because it is a lot of work. But
Oh yeah, it is. And you were just talking about before I called about you taking money. They should be like the truth should be for free. It's like, well, then the fucking news shouldn't be making any money.
yeah, good point. Good point. Like they should have a bigger problem with the news making money.
Exactly,
than-
and they're making billions and trillions.
Oh yeah, if it bleeds, it leads, and that's always been the way. Whenever there's a psyop, they get to monopolize the coverage on it because the rest of us are censored. And with that traffic does come money. And I know from experience on my own small scale, and I can only imagine what CBS and CNN is making every time there's a fake shooting.
I know. I see. I don't even watch it. Like when I was even on YouTube's commercial came out, I flipped the fucking screen over, or I just close my ears because I don't want to hear that shit. Because there's some kind of message in there for me, I guess.
You know what? At this point I consider like the NASA, right? They're part of the military, and
Oh, yeah.
we find out all they're doing is creating a worldview with movies
Yeah.
and science fiction. So I actually look at the mainstream media as another military operation designed with shaping our worldview. You might as well consider it to be that. Like it's a psy-war, and it's a psy-war.
Yeah, actually, if you think about it, the media is the biggest military because we get it nonstop when all
Exactly.
it is. It's like people that want to go to wars overseas. Like, they just don't understand the concept of like people dying, like bombs being dropped on you because they don't realize it over here. Like what we're doing to those people over there
Well,
for some stupid agenda.
the people in my life that I know, like family, and they're all gonna believe whatever the news says. And I just kind of ask test questions, and I'll ask, people I know. So, do you think aliens are real? And they'll say, well, the Navy just revealed stuff, and I've
Yeah, I
seen
know.
what the Navy's revealed, and I've seen how fake it is. And so I just realized, well, they trust those sources more than they trust me. So if there's a
Oh
staged
yeah,
UFO invasion, I'm going to be one of the few people in my town who's not bamboozled by it. I just hope they don't shut off the internet.
basically that it's going to be shut off because unless you want to watch mainstream TV programming or whatever the fuck's on the TV, like that's what they're going to do with the internet. They're not even going to give people like you a voice in the future because they're going to have all your information. You ain't going to be able to get it open up any internet site or anything like that. Then they're not going to let you do that.
I'll say that I was abducted and that I'll get a GoFundMe account going. Like these crisis actors.
You know, that on a little funnier subject, I called into Brian like a couple months ago, and I told him he should become the first transvestite or flat spokesperson, transgender, and he was laughing, but it's like YouTube would promote you if you're talking about your transgender, right?
You know what? I've already suggested that. I said that
Did you?
if you're Mandela affected, you're trans-dimensional. So you get trans. So they're all protected as trans people now. So if you're
Yeah, I
Mandela,
know.
that's LGBTM. We'll have to add M for Mandela affected, and yeah, you get full credentials.
Yeah, you get your super chats back. See, the thing with the Mandela effect, my brain just can't comprehend that. I kind of get lost in that subject. It's like I know what he's pointing out, but then again, you've seen what you're pointing out in the Mandela effect on the TV or in the newspapers, and that's all scripted. So
Yeah, to me that's
it's
where I draw the line too. I'm like, I'm focused on what we can prove and disprove. I don't need metaphysical explanations right now, and I'm very wary of popular conspiracy theories that don't have any evidence. Like I don't trust alien sightings, I don't trust Mandela effects. I don't think it's rigorous enough. I stick with the auto hoaxing, and
yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at. I think philosophically it's the purest thing.
Yeah, and then I was talking to a guy. I work for myself, so I was talking to him, and I showed him videos years ago, and like the NASA videos. Like I told him to watch it, and he watched them, and he came back, and another guy at work was asking him, "So did you watch it? Is it real?" He's like, "No, it's fake, right?" And so I went over to his house to do some work, and I was talking about the Holocaust a little. I was just telling him it's not true what we're told, and he's like looking at me. But to convince someone of that, it's very hard.
Well,
So,
you know what? That's why they did it. See,
oh yeah, yeah.
they wanted to make it a crime and a moral crime to
They did make
criticize
it.
the
They
past.
did make it that they don't want to. Sorry to interrupt you. They did make that already a crime.
Yeah, they did. So I'm like, and now that I've experienced this, where I'm criticizing shootings that are like recent, or I'm criticizing the terror attacks, saying I don't think it's real, and now they're making this moral equivalency, like it's some type of denial of some victimhood of some victims, and so I see what they've done. This was planned in advance, and something else. If you look at the shooter, his name was, I think it was Elliot Roger, or no, Eugene Rogers. He shot up
Yeah.
Palo Alto. His dad was a cinematographer for the Hunger Games. Anyway, this shooter, and it was a fake shooting, turns
Yeah, of
out,
course.
well, his grandfather did photography at a number of concentration camps in World War II. He's the guy who took a
Yeah.
lot of photos of the mass graves. So I'm like, what are the odds, that they're not
The-
both
the-
in the family business
Oh,
of propaganda?
Exactly. I was just going to say that it's a family business. It's not a family business. It's a Zionist business.
Well, I call it an oligarch business because I want to be inclusive. I think it goes bigger. And the most
Oh, yeah.
so I call them oligarchs. I think George Orwell I think he nailed the template down. I really think he did, and I'm just now really unpackaging a lot of what he brought up in his books, and even the way they fake the news he totally wrote about back then. So
Yeah. And I'm sorry. And I was on this topic of talking about the Holocaust when I was trying to talk about it to him. I'm like, well, do you believe the official 9/11 story, Bill? So he goes, no, I absolutely don't believe that. I go, so if you don't believe that, how the fuck did you believe anything the media ever says?
exactly, and that's a good point. People don't understand it because they think the media is pretty much like scientific. Like, oh well, they're just recording and reporting, and they're
Yeah,
documenting
right.
things. It's like, no, they're not documenting reality. They're actually producing a vision for the oligarchs that serves them. So people who trust the news media are just as naive as people who trust their pastors for
Mhm.
I mean, the guy is claiming to have a direct connection to God. Believe if you want to, pay for it if you want to, but yeah, they're in the same boat.
Yeah, no, I'm just in the belief, like, whatever anyone says, I mean, nothing should be, like, against the fucking law to say, nothing should be. Nothing. Because if you say something really nasty to someone, they're going to wipe your fucking face off, if you go overboard. But,
Yeah,
like, you
yeah.
can't even criticize anything Jewish. It's like, that's absurd. Like, people still don't question that. Like, they're passing laws. You can't mention something bad about a country.
Yeah, I'm not for that at all. Like, I really don't think that we should allow them to get away with regulating our thoughts like that because it sets a very, very bad precedent. And like, what if I'm just saying I don't believe in the past? I think everything is now, and the future that we
Well,
materialize. Well, am I now a Holocaust denier and a Sandy Hook denier?
yes, you are. Yes, you are. I'm being sarcastic, but of course
Exactly.
you are.
Exactly. There's no logic to what they're doing, and it's super selective. And if I choose not to believe in dinosaurs, or I choose not to believe in this particular news story, that's up to me in my mind. And they want to regulate our thoughts, and they want to say it's because if we don't, that these bad thoughts will spread.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing they passed, this was a year ago, and I was talking with the Bill. This was a couple of years, well, probably like a year ago. And what's it, the UN or whatever the fuck it is, the thing they passed, like after 2020, they passed whatever resolution or law, the fuck they call it. Like anything on the internet, before it goes on the internet, has to be gone over. You know what I mean? So after 2020, like anything that you put on the internet, probably even a tweet, is going to have to get, what's the word I'm looking for, verified before they even allow it.
Wow, that doesn't surprise me how they're ramping things up. In fact, I see the effects. Like now, just to view a video or some videos, like here's what they did with COPPA. They scared people. So now no one wants to be accused of producing content for kids and then getting fined or whatever with this COPPA thing. So everyone's marking their channel 18 and over. Well, that has a side effect. Now anybody who wants to watch your video has to log in. Well, what if they're not a YouTube user? So I sent a video to a friend to watch. He's not a user, doesn't want to be. He can't watch the video. And that's, I think, one of their intended effects. I think they want to make sure that if you're watching a video, they know who you are and what you've watched.
Exactly, and that's why YouTube, like, I could get on it on my phone, and my sister just gave me the one I got DLive on because I couldn't do it on my iPad. Well, it wasn't even mine. It was her kids, but they gave it to me years ago, and I still use it. And just in the past week, I can't even get on YouTube on it no more. It's not YouTube accessible or whatever. But now you got to sign in and shit like that.
Yep, exactly. And something else they did this year. So it used to be the case, if you had a YouTube channel, you could hit stream, and then you could broadcast yourself talking about your day or whatever. And
Yeah.
right after the fake New Zealand shooting, they changed the rules where now you can't stream from your phone unless you already have 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah, but see, I understand that.
What?
But I'm surprised they even still let you stream.
Yeah, same here. But see, well, what that does though is like, let's say there's a mass shooting somewhere.
Yeah, and you're there, and I know.
Yeah, like they just got rid of how many witnesses instantly?
Yeah. like the internet, like you were saying a little while ago, you were hoping it's still around, but it's going to be around, but you're just not going to be able to access it.
Well, I'm looking into
know.
starting a print newspaper starting in January because I think that if I can get into print, which I can, that will survive an EMP and maybe keep some sort of.
Listen, I wish you all the best, but you know what? When it comes to anything, they'll just shut you down because they control everything. It's sad to say they control everything. They want you gone. You're done.
Yeah, we shall see. I mean, really, you might have a point, but I think 2020 is a year that we'll find out for sure whether free speech has always been just a farce.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is a farce. Of course it is. I was saying that years ago. Not that I'm trying to give myself compliments, but I'm going back years, like free speech, and people. And it was funny because on YouTube, like they're censoring like everybody now. That's weird. Before it's just the truth is, or whatever. I'm not saying truth is in a bad way because I'm a truther or whatever you want to call it. And now all these other channels like that weren't even getting involved in this stuff are getting censored, and they're crying. It's like you should have been crying when other people were getting censored for telling the truth or whatever they was talking about. As soon as one gets censored, there's no stopping. It's like an avalanche.
Yep, that's what PK and I talked about. We're like, hey, look, the people who only talk about certain topics, who don't call out the hoaxes, didn't care that we were being censored. I'm like, just wait. Wait until they expand that circle of unacceptable discourse, and no one will be there to stand up for you. And we've observed it.
Yeah, I was just going to say another good point. Maybe it's not a good point, but I completely forgot it. But it's just it's a shame. Like, cause on D-Live and when I called in Nate Tom plus D-Live, he's like, no, the people that own it are cool. It's like when the pressure's on, they're just going to have to do, because they're going to be given an option like Pablo Escobar, if he was even real. So what did he say, silver or lead or something like that? Money or lead.
Right. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Because the people who own D-Life, I'm sure they're great people. I'm sure 90% of these people are great. But once the 2% or 2%ers or 1%ers get you, it's a shame. Like, it's just a shame.
Yeah, definitely. They have their accepted scapegoats. And yeah, it is very much, I think it is definitely a war of attrition. Like, they know they have the government backing and all the money, and eventually they're going to filter us out, corner us, and eventually censor. And I think one of their main angles now is to say that people who go into conspiracy theories are mentally ill, and mentally ill people are dangerous. They've already crossed that line.
Yeah, they already said that. Didn't they say that in their FBI memo with the conspiracies of the next, like, American, whatever the words they used, terrorists or whatever?
Yep. Like right now, there's 113 domestic terrorists watching, according to the FBI. And that came out right before that kid shot up the Walmart. And then Trump comes out, and Trump says, we may need to involuntarily confine the mentally ill.
Yeah, well, him and everyone sitting around him should be the first to fucking go.
Exactly. When I saw him say that, I'm like, okay, this is not 8D chess. He's not QAnon. Trump is going with the program, and it's as fascist as it could possibly be.
Listen, like that's when I started like really getting into like YouTube was when he was running, because when he was running, he was trashing the media, and I was loving every moment of it. Lock her up, all this other nonsense. I never thought he'd get in because for some reason, I'm like, I just figured Hillary they'd put her in there because your vote doesn't matter. And then when he got elected, on his very first fucking speech he gave, he's talking about how the Clintons were good for this country. It's like, what the fuck just happened? Like, lock her up, you're gonna drain the swamp. And now she's good for the country? She did good for the country? If I was in the crowd, people should have been like, there should have been like chalk on the board when they heard that.
Oh, yeah, he played the role that he was going to be a reformer. I voted for him because I thought he was going to bring down the EPA and expose the climate change hoax. No. I mean, what I got out of the election, I'm glad I voted because at least I saw Rachel Maddow cry. But, no.
Yeah, but you know what? those with $1 million tears.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. She's probably paid to do it. But yeah, it was entertaining. It was entertaining, that's for sure. I actually saw a riot at a Trump convention, and it turns out later that the rioters who were wearing Bernie Sanders shirts were
Yeah, yeah.
paid by the Clinton campaign, and they were bussed in from
Yeah.
California.
Yeah, of course. That's what they do, because people are just so stupid on them. And people talk about Republicans, Democrats, like my two sisters. It's like they're no fucking different. They're the same, but they're the fucking poisonous apples in the same tree. Like they're both the same. There's no difference. Just a name.
Yeah,
They just have these
I used to think that that was a cliche to say that the parties were the same, but now that I look at it, they all agree on the mainstream news and all of the lies that come out of it. So, for example, if there's a psyop, a fake gun shooting at a school, or maybe a terror attack, none of them are going to contradict the lie. So they're all part of the same program.
Yeah. It's just like I was thinking the other day, because I'm getting so frustrated when I'm trying to find something to watch. I can't. And I'm just like, just don't even bother with it no more. Like, well, what does it fucking matter anyways? You know, it's like, it's never going to get across. Like, I'm hoping for a better world. It's just a pipe dream. It's not ever going to happen.
Well, I don't know. I'm kind of I wouldn't say hopeful, but I do think that there's a great deal of defensiveness on behalf of the MSM, which makes me think they're responding to provocations. So I'm getting behind the idea that if we just keep on,
Well,
like on YouTube, people won't even say Sandy Hook. So I don't know. I plan to keep agitating for at least another year. But hey, I appreciate the call very much. I have some other people calling in, and
okay.
Infinite
It's nice
Plane.
talking to you.
Yeah, likewise.
It's nice talking.
InfinitePlaneRadio.com. You can get the archives there.
Okay, and have a nice Christmas.
Likewise, you too. Merry Christmas. All right, 505-510-4226. I have time for another call. I saw someone else was just trying to call in. So earlier we covered Mike's show on ferlive.com. And you can get a link there at madmikehughes.com, talking about what's coming up next. Let's see. We do have a caller. I'm hoping it's you. There's a commenter here. His name is Pyrod Oxine Coatine, who says that he was abducted by aliens who looked like skinny old men in gray spandex, who examined him before leaving him naked at a bus station near Chicago. So if you want to call in and let us know about your alien abduction story, I'm sure we all want to hear it. Want to hear more about your spandex-clad abductors and what they did to you. 505-510-4226. And look, open phones. Really, you can't say that your truth is being suppressed, that people don't want to hear about the alien abductees. I want to hear about it. Because according to my research, alien abduction stories were made up by the Air Force. Disinformation agents in the Air Force passed out to conspiracy researchers in order to discredit them and help the Air Force hide advanced technology. We have a commenter here. I know where you're going with this. He's like, save the dongs. Call in 505-510-4226. This caller's always saying, you guys got to stop circumcisions. And I'm like, well, do you represent like a group of men? Do you have a bunch of people behind you who are like you're agitating on behalf of? Or are you just like a lone guy on a corner? Are you protesting at hospitals? Have you published any literature whatsoever? Or you just come to my chat and you say, save the dongs. And the weird thing about it is, and I'd like this guy to call in, is that he thinks that you can't stop abortion because it's the woman's right to choose, but then he doesn't want circumcision. And I'm like, wait, you can kill the baby, but you can't do that? So, yeah, if you want to call in with your Save the Dong campaign, 505-510-4226. So far, we've got the SJW for the circumcision issue, and we have an alien abductee who was either abducted by space aliens in tight gray spandex or bicyclists. Has that ever happened? We have them here. These cyclists, they all wear spandex. I mean, are you sure it was aliens? When they wear those helmets and those goggles and those jester suits, they kind of look like aliens. Maybe you were picked up by a couple guys on 10 speeds. Okay, we may not get a call from either. Again, 505-510-4226. I'm just going to assume the alien abductee is making it up, and the other guy is just a troll, not really interested in his little issue here. It's the weirdest thing. They come in here like that's their number one thing. Like, what makes you go for that? Out of all the different things to try to save, you could save the climate. You could save the school kids from the school shooting. You could save the West from Islam. There's so many things you can save, and you go for that one issue. And I wonder, well, maybe the issue's not the issue. Maybe it's a cover for something else. And that's kind of what I suspect. And yeah, again, I'm getting a lot of this from people saying that I have been listening to your show and I thought you were gone. I thought you were dead. We thought you were in jail. Basically, a lot of people, thousands of people who follow this channel don't know that we're still around. And that's because the system as it is right now is really good at breaking up any kind of organic network of free thinkers. Exactly, lickety split. That's what I imagine the agenda to be. And they can't be open about it. And anytime somebody's cloaking their agenda in something else, I kind of discount what they have to say. And anytime somebody spams the chat with something, like aggressively, but then they're not passionate enough to call, I have to think it's hoaxy, that they're just faking it. Shills. And what does that pay these days? Is anybody here? Any paid shills want to let me know what you make? I bet you get paid shills who are paid $1,000 a week to rip on people who are making money on YouTube. Like they're paid to call you a sellout. Oh, how dare this guy make money using words. Meanwhile, they're probably raking it in. And after watching this documentary, Mirage Men, which I'll do a review of it, you have to see it. I'm going to type the name in the chat. Best documentary I've ever seen. It even explains, and I think this might be the case with the Flat Earth Conference, that the intelligence agencies will organize conferences at hotels so they can get video, so they can get your ID, so they can meet you, talk to you, record your voice, find everything about you. You've been profiled, which I already figured is the case. I mean, there's 116 people here. You've already been profiled on some level. It's just a matter of whether, I mean, they're not going to do anything about it. That's another point too. So, for example, this documentary is about a guy in Albuquerque who is recording craft exiting Kirtland Air Force Base and going over the mountain. So instead of locking the guy up or, I don't know, shooting him, what did they do? They hire some creative types to make up stories to make this guy believe these stories so he goes around discrediting himself, which he did. And even later, the intelligence agent, who is no longer working for the Air Force, tells this guy who was popular with the UFO crowd, hey, by the way, I made it all up. This was a sanctioned COINTEL operation. It's a bunch of disinfo because we were hiding the stealth bomber. There are no aliens or UFOs, and all the signals you got were from the NSA, and they were being sent to you from next door. So he was told the truth about how he was manipulated by the intelligence agencies to build a UFO community. And after he was told the truth, he said, nah, that's just more misinformation. It's all true. So he became a believer in lies once the community reinforced those lies. And here's the reason he got trapped. And I think this is kind of what happens with the Mandela effect. You have an agent who makes up a story about having seen, like he makes up a story saying, yeah, I saw aliens, They wear spandex. They abducted me. Well, now a community of people build around this, and they say, "Hey, look, um, I was also abducted, and I'm so glad we can have a conference so we can all network together." So now all the abductees and believers in UFOs are BFFs. And then it grows and it grows. So you might not even have any real alien experience, but if you go into a conference like that and you say, "Hey guys, I was abducted, now I'm a believer." Well, now you get a big group hug. Now you get friends. Now you are part of this network, and now you have more incentive to stick with your lie than not. Why would you tell the truth if you are going to lose status? So what happens with believers is believers put community ahead of truth, narrative ahead of facts. And it's grown, and now it has a life of its own, to where the people who made it up, who made up the alien abduction stories, are seeing second and third generation conspiracy theorists who bought the original stories. So I actually have a commenter here whose phone is broken. I think the government maybe don't want him talking about the invasions or the UFOs or whatever. So they blocked his phone so he can't call in. But this guy claims that he was abducted. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but you're basically confabulating, possibly lying, building upon existing narratives that were made credible by misinformed conspiracy theorists who are being messed with by disinformation agents. Memento says, "Call in quick before you get abducted again." Exactly. It's unlikely he'll call in. And by unlikely, I mean it's like 99% chance he won't. Sometimes you can go to people. I'm going to go ahead and check in at DLive. Just if you haven't been there, not DLive, I'm sorry, Float. This is what Float looks like. Who are being messed. It actually has better sound than YouTube. I'm going to give you a link in the Restream chat. If you haven't seen it, this is Float. It also serves as a Twitter and Facebook. It's basically, I would call it a replacement for all the social media. It's decentralized, which is the advantage here. So if you go over to infiniteplainradio.live, it takes you to my Float channel. And some days I will exclusively live stream over there, just for a few reasons. I want to get more people over there as I can, so I highly recommend you take a look if you haven't yet. And what you'll see, here's an example. This is actually a card I did this morning. I put a lot of my tweets, my animations, and other pertinent links in my Float feed. I no longer actively tweet because I realize I've been shadow banned. It's like, for the last 3 years, I've been vigorously tweeting and tweeting and tweeting, and nobody heard, and it's because I've been shadow banned, I'm pretty sure. And what I find with Float is that I get a lot more interaction from people because it's actually real people, not a bunch of bots. And I've noticed a lot of the people who are there are very aware. The situational awareness is very high. And that's because the people who go to the site have all been pretty much driven off of the bigger platforms. So they already know the score. There's no pretense at political correctness whatsoever. So if you're easily offended, this is not the site for you, and you won't have the power as a butt-triggered troll flake to censor anybody. And that's really been my issue here. Like, I'm not mad at Susan Wojcicki or YouTube or any of these fascists. I'm really not. I'm not mad at, like, these companies. I'm disappointed in the masses of people who went along mindlessly with all of the propaganda saying, if something offends you, flag it, which I'm not cool with. Anyway, I want to give a shout out to, well, first of all, PewDiePie, I guess, and the sacred mother of the revolution, the grandmother of the dictator of North Korea. Thanks for not nuking Seattle today. Merry Christmas, Happy Saturnalia. This is One-Eyed Jack and the Shells, Troll Flakes. And I'll put a link below.
It's a creeper beat, man. Come on. You know it.
You're playing, man. Infinite things, man. The play society. Infinite plane, infinite plane, infinite plane, infinite plane. Doing my thing, do my thing, do my thing, do my thing. Infinite plane, yeah. I live on the infinite plane. I live on the infinite plane. They telling me different things. I supposed to be pulling strings, but I know they playing the games. Since I found out today, I live on the infinite plane. I ain't playing no games. I'm on a different plane. I live on the infinite plane. I know the news is fake. They're trying to choose my fate. I know the views is fake. They pushing the global stage. Fake news on the radio wave. All the hoax, the whole world is a stage. Body double like I'm Saddam Hussein, doing my thing. Don't want the fame, just tryna make change. They took out my page. But I'm infinite gang, infinite plane, playing no games. Infinite gang, we ain't playing no games. Infinite plane, I'm on an infinite plane. Infinite plane, the world that I live in is strange. Cause I'm on an infinite plane. I'm doing different things, yeah. I'm on an infinite plane. I'm on an infinite plane. I'm on an infinite plane. Stay with the infinite gang. Supposed to pull the strings, but they can't cover the game. I'm on the infinite plane.